Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we are looking at a freshly minted 2024 Honda Ridgeline, and this is the new trim grade for off-road flavor, the Trailsport. Okay, my friends, let's talk about the vehicle we have before us. This is a 2024 Honda Ridgeline in the Trailsport trim grade. Trailsport is 3/4 of the way up the trim grade scale between the RTL and the black edition at the top. So it's pretty fully featured, but it's not all the way there. As tested, this one is $46,000 and some change, and you can essentially get it exactly as it is. They don't have a lot of options and packages that stand alone, but you can get dealer added packages at the end of the selection process that can add up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to this thing and get it just slightly over $50,000. But 46 grand, as you see it, is pretty much how they come. So the Ridgeline, just as a little bit of a context background, is a vehicle that's been with us since, well, I think the first time I test drove this generation was in late 2016. It hasn't changed a lot since then. It had a design refresh around 2021-ish, and it got a little bit more rugged look here and there and some improvements. For 2024, the new Trailsport trim grade that we have here offers a little bit more of a rugged look and feel. And I say look and feel because that's mostly what this trim grade brings. It doesn't really offer a lot of additional ground clearance or off-road capabilities, and we'll get to that a little bit more in the test drive. But when it comes to visuals, look right up front. You can see that this has a unique grille, and it's a little bit more chewy and rugged looking. Black trim all around to sort of give it a little bit more of a monotone appearance. LED headlights, of course, fog lights down at the bottom of the fascia, that nice bright orange Trailsport badge. Coming around the corner, unique wheels to this trim grade, an 18-inch 5-spoke alloy, and some unique tires. And this is probably the biggest thing you're going to get for your Trailsport money when it comes to capability, is these nice all-terrain tires, General Grabber 245/60/18, and they do have some pretty good bite out here. Looking at the rest of the styling down the side, pretty much the same as we've seen it for quite a while. At the back, this is where the Ridgeline really shines in my view. It has a lot of versatility back here that you're not going to get in a standard body-on-frame pickup truck in the midsize class, because this is a crossover unibody vehicle. It does have a lot of ways that it can do things differently. That trunk that's built into the floor of the bed is very cool. That can be an ice chest. You can put a lot of stuff in there, a lot of gear, camping gear, and the spare tires also under there. All of that's great. The only catch is if you've got it loaded full of stuff, you got to get it out of there to get into there. But that said, a very nice feature. It's lockable. You can put things in there and still have the bed open and not worry about security. The tailgate on this for 2024, they've added Ridgeline stamped into the metal for this year is a nice little styling element. I like that. And the tailgate, as we've shown you before in other Ridgeline drives, it is a dual opening tailgate. You can pull that center handle, it opens like a regular tailgate. There is another handle and you can pull it open with a hinged opening. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And then also I'd point out that part of the refresh they did back in 2021-ish is that there's big dual exhaust outlets down there at the bottom of that bumper. They really sort of gave this a bit more of a butch truck-like look and feel, which is good because it's gotten a rap for being basically a big car with a bed, which there's some truth to that, but that's been the rap, and they've really been listening to customers and trying to, you know, make it a little bit more trucky. The cabin of the Ridgeline Trailsport is a place that's going to look pretty familiar if you've been in any Ridgeline in the last 7 or 8 years, and that's because, as I mentioned on the outside walk around, this is a product that's been around for a while. It still has the interior design of the last generation of Hondas. Almost all the new Hondas have been completely redesigned inside and out, and they've got the new Honda interior design, which is really awesome. That doesn't mean that this isn't awesome. It just means it's not exactly the same as maybe if you got behind the wheel of a current Pilot or a current Passport. Very high quality materials, a very well laid out interior, but they made some key changes for 2024 that we're going to talk about that really up the game. They make up for the fact that it's not the latest greatest in all aspects. First thing is a new instrument cluster, which is standard on all trim grades, not just the Trailsport. It includes a 7-inch digital display, which is built into the left side, and it's paired with an analog gauge on the right that you almost really can't tell them apart. But the benefit of having that big digital screen is that it can be customized very easily, and it has a lot of different things going on that allow you to have more information and versatility with it than if it were just an analog gauge. That's pretty slick. The center console is really where the big news is for 2024. They've given this a completely redesigned center console that has more storage, more versatility, and down in the front it's got a larger cubby area that has a larger area for your phone. You can lay it down and use the wireless charger up there, and there's still room for another phone to sit next to it. Now, there are not two wireless chargers like on some vehicles we've tested recently, but it's a much more usable space up there. Cup holders off to the side. The Honda sort of corporate push button gear selector, not my favorite, but I'm slowly getting used to it. This is really where the news is. It's a large console storage box. Before, it used to have a very flat, low console with armrests that came down from the seats, sort of like a minivan. Now, it's got an openable door and a more conventional storage box down inside. I would say that it's large enough for a 6-pack of water bottles, maybe a little bit larger, and so it's got a lot of space in there. These seats I'm sitting in are very comfortable. They're leather seats, and there are nice embroidered logos on the headrest. These are heated seats, not ventilated, but they are power, and they do have memory settings for the driver. These are very comfortable and supportive. They're pretty firm, but Honda has a way of making chairs that just, you wish your dentist had them, you know? I mean, if I would go get fillings every day, if my dentist had chairs like this, they're good. And look at these floor mats. All-weather rubber tray-style floor mats with nice big Trailsport logos. Yes, they look lived in. We've been out in the desert today, but this comes standard with this trim grade. I think very important. You can get in and out of this thing out in the bush and not worry about getting your carpet all dirty, and in the case of the desert, full of thorns. And so these can easily be pulled out. They can be vacuumed out. You don't have a lot of stuff stuck in your carpet. I love that. In the back seat, this new center console offers up some nice high-mounted AC vents back there, which I absolutely love. And the rear seat of this is plenty roomy. It's got a nice high seating position, plenty of space back there. It has a nice folding mechanism that allows you to fold the lower cushion upward in a 60-40 split to really get some big, tall items back there. So it's very versatile back there. So this is an interior that I'm pretty happy with overall. I like the upgrades and improvements that they made for 2024 to sort of keep this competitive to some degree going into another year or two before this gets completely redesigned. This interior gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is another thing that has been really upgraded for 2024. It's a new larger infotainment screen, 9 inches, and like the instrument cluster, it is standard on all trim grades. And there's a volume knob and tuning buttons on the left-hand side, hard controls, which I like. There's also some jump buttons for the menus, but it has a lot of standard features that Toyota, for instance, now charges you extra for in a subscription, navigation being one of them. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, those are wireless, Sirius XM radio, Bluetooth connectivity, of course, a pretty easy to use menu system. It's not quite as complex and full featured as some of the other brands out there. It's a little bit more, I don't know, 5-10 years ago in its overall functionality and its layout, but that means it's easier to use than a lot of the newer systems out there. The audio quality, not the best in the business because this does not have the top-end audio system that is offered in the Ridgeline like Honda usually does with their vehicles. You have to go with their top-of-the-line trim grade to get that. It is available in the Black Edition. There is one thing I think that is missing at this price point, $45,000 to $50,000, and that is a 360-degree surround view monitor. Here we only have a single view backup camera, and to add insult to injury, part of the view is shrouded because of the fact that the camera is actually located up underneath the handle for the tailgate. So you can see the edges of that in there that are obscuring part of the entire view. So while it could use a few more features at this price, I like the fact that it's simple, it's easy, and it works. It gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, it's time to take a drive. And so because the word trail is in the name of this, we're going to start on the trail and do a little bit different than we do most of our test drives. Well, I wanted to see what this off-road tuned suspension is all about. And so what does that mean? Well, Honda wasn't very detailed. They simply said that it's got off-road tuned springs and dampers. What isn't here is increased ground clearance. They're not taller springs. This doesn't have a significantly different feel, in my opinion, so far than any other Ridgeline that I've tested out here. It does feel like you're driving a crossover-based vehicle. It's pretty firmly sprung. I would suspect most of the off-road tuning the suspension offers up is really more about probably accounting for the heavier weight of these all-terrain tires, which do offer quite a bit more bite out here in environments like this. But the overall ride and drive isn't necessarily like a soft off-road feel like you might find in a Jeep Wrangler, for instance. Ground clearance, it's exactly the same as other ones, so coming up to spots like this, you have to be careful not to bump that bottom lip on the ground, because it's just as close as it is on any other street version. Because this vehicle is a unibody vehicle, you can feel everything going on in the chassis. You can feel it in the steering, you can feel it in the seat of your pants. You don't have that rubber isolation that you tend to get with a body on frame truck. Now, the next part of my test drive is the desert washboard road, which to me is a bigger challenge than even in that trail back there. And that's because this rhythmic, vibrating washboard surface can really make even the best vehicles out there feel not so good. Like Ridgelines I've tested out here before, there's a lot of resonation going on. I don't know if you can hear that, but this vibrating surface just sends waves of vibration and resonance through the structure. It's a very tight structure. That's a plus, but there's not a lot of rubber isolation that's absorbing that. And so I'm getting a lot of that rhythmic vibration in the dash, the mirror right there that I'm looking at. But for the most part, the structure feels solid, just a lot of vibration. And I am getting a little bit of kind of a loose vibration and rattle through the steering column here a little bit, which again is something I would call common for other Ridgelines that I've tested. One thing these tires do offer up is a significant amount more bite, especially out here on this gravel road. I can feel their presence going around these curves. I don't have quite the level of slip that just automatically comes with street tires, and that's a bonus. So my overall first impression here driving off the pavement is that stepping up to Trailsport doesn't really give you any additional capabilities out here in the rough. Really none at all, other than the extra grip afforded by these tires. If it had additional ground clearance, if it had more traction toys with the all-wheel drive system that maybe allowed you to lock things and really force a little bit more traction and allow you to manually control things, then I'd be telling you you've got more capability. But mechanically speaking, other than the tune and feel of the suspension, it's identical to any other trim grade. On the pavement is really where the Ridgeline shines. This is a vehicle that has always been one of the most refined, nice, comfortable driving trucks you can get anywhere for any price, because it is a crossover-based chassis. And so it doesn't have any of the jitteriness or shakes or clunks that body-on-frame vehicles tend to have. It's very quiet out here on the highway at speed, 59.8 decibels, and that is on the lower side of average. It's very comfortable. These tires, grippy as they are out in the dirt, don't seem to offer up a lot of noise. It's very stable, very low wind noise. Unlike some of the rattling I felt out there on the washboard road, when you get on the pavement, this thing is smooth as silk. This chassis gets 4 out of 5 stars. Now it's time to talk about what's under the hood. This has a very well proven 3.5 liter single overhead cam V6, 280 horsepower. And here it comes mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And it also comes standard with all-wheel drive. So if you watch my videos, you know the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we're coming to a complete stop and go. So the auto start-stop system kicked in there. And 60. So it's got pretty good power. It moves off the line very good. 262 pound-feet of torque. And it's got a pretty nice sound. This is one of the last naturally aspirated V6s you can get almost anywhere these days. It's getting to be a rare commodity in the automotive market. This 9-speed transmission shifts pretty well. It's gotten much more well behaved over time. Didn't used to be the best transmission on the market. The all-wheel drive system, very versatile. It can transmit up to 70% of the torque to the rear wheels if necessary, giving a rear wheel bias only when necessary. You can't force it, but it does offer that up when you need it. This is rated at 18 mpg city, 23 highway, and 20 mpg combined. In my week with it, I got 18 mpg, and that was my combined rating. So not quite all the way up there, but in fairness, it's been over 100 degrees, and I've been using the air conditioner literally every minute I've driven this truck this week. So this is a powertrain that I've been impressed with, and if you like naturally aspirated V6s, why? Get them while they last, as I always like to say. This powertrain gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, my friends, we have now taken it for a drive, and we've showed it to you inside and out and talked about what really sets this trim grade apart from the rest in the Ridgeline lineup and some of the new things for 2024, particularly on the interior. I like some of the updates they did in there that make it a little bit more livable every day and more versatile in there. I do have to talk about the Trailsport trim grade because that's what they gave us to test. It looks nice. I like the chewy tires. I like the look and feel of it. But if you're looking at this trim grade because you want extra capability off-road that the other ones don't offer, that's not here. Basically, it's tires, and they do offer the off-road suspension, and we talked about that. I don't notice a great big difference. Certainly not an increase in capability, not an increase in ground clearance, not an increase in software or hardware that gives this more capability. It's essentially identical, but for these tires and wheels. That said, that makes sense for some people that live in a place where you need tires like this anyway. You might as well get them from the factory. And I'll point out, you can also get the HPD package at the dealership that offers that without going with the Trailsport. So you can go all the way down to the base model and put that there, or you can all go to the most expensive black model, black edition, and get the HPD package as well. So there's a lot of ways you can go, and Honda offers you that flexibility, which is kind of cool. The Honda Ridgeline itself is a vehicle that I have praised highly in a lot of our test drives because it offers something different in the market. It is more refined, it is more comfortable, it is a more comfortable driving vehicle than most body-on-frame mid-sized pickup trucks. Not everybody needs that. And you really can't compare this to those, in my opinion. This is its own animal because it is a little bit more of the softer side of trucks. I'm willing to admit that. Some people aren't. Some people say, no, it's just as tough, but it just isn't. Some people don't need that though, right? I live in the city. I have a townhouse. I would be happy with something like this to go to the big box store, the nursery in once in a while and put some things in the back, whatever, go camping in it. I don't need to tow a big boat. Although 5,000 pounds towing is still pretty good, that's just not what this is for. This is for that buyer that doesn't need the big hulking thing and wants the quality and the driving experience and the living with it experience that most cars offer. That's what this is. And I think that's a good thing. So when I look at value, $46,000, you know, crossover SUVs have gotten up into this territory. This is no longer a standout in that way. And you can spend more here. You can spend quite a bit less on the Ridgeline, and so I think it's a good value. I put that at 4 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.3 out of 5 stars for the review. A very good score. And you know what else? It remains on my I'd buy it list. Yeah, this is a vehicle that's been on my I'd buy it list now for a few years, which means I would recommend it. If I were looking for a vehicle in this category, I would buy it myself. And, you know, and I do own a Ford Maverick right now, which is to say I'm good with the idea of a crossover-based pickup truck because, as I mentioned, it fits my needs. This is just more of a premium type product. You really can't compare those two either because a Ford Maverick is smaller, it's more basic, cheaper. This is high quality. This is like a premium upgrade compared to that. And if I were looking for that premium upgrade, this is very attractive for a lot of reasons. And I will point out that, you know, the value score I already mentioned, it is down there at 4 because of the appeal, and that's because this is getting kind of old. It's been around for quite a few years without a lot of big changes, and so that means that we have a new one coming along in the next couple of years that's going to completely be redesigned, and I might even just wait for that if I were going here myself. But if you want one now, this is a good choice, and I just said it. So if you like what we do, you can see our fully detailed review on the Ridgeline right there that we did just a few years ago, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there and stay informed of everything we do.